welcome everybody to the Frivolous podcast, episode 12. I'm your host, Jacob. I'm super excited to be here for the third straight solo episode. I'm sure you guys are all very, very thrilled about that. I know I am, because who doesn't love hearing themselves talk for hours and hours straight? But here we are, rolling with the punches. And that's, at the end of the day, you can only do so much. And, I only get I don't want to delve into that aspect of my podcast, but it's not like I'm getting Joe Rogan or Dak Shepard amount of listeners. This isn't a professional thing. I mean, I try to make it as great of quality as I can, but as you guys know and have seen and heard, I do fail in that aspect from time to time. But that's okay. We're just gonna go with it and roll with the punches. So I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to be here. Officially on second week of my summer break, so that's cool. It's I don't want to say it's boring because I'm very grateful that I even am in a position where I can get a break, right? Because most people just work and work and work and work. So I'm grateful for that. I don't want that to be misconstrued at all in any way. But it's just some days go by really slow, some days go by really fast, and it's I feel some days some days I don't do enough, some days I do too much, and there's just no in between for me. Yesterday I was pretty busy. I worked out, I helped move some things, then I organized some stuff back home, and that took a lot out of me, and I was so exhausted. And even my fiance was like, hey, you should probably just take a break, and I just wouldn't take a break. But then today I haven't done much, but except for really filming this podcast and working out. So it's just weird how some days you can be really productive and other days you won't. It's just so weird how we as humans work. I haven't done as many of the things that I've wanted to do so far. I mean, I wanted to go back to the gym. That happened. That's been happening. I'm happy about that. I'm eating healthier. I'm happy about that. I haven't been riding or anything yet. That's something I really need to get on, and that's something that I'm trying to get over that hump. It's one of those things I feel at least personally, I feel once I do it, right? Once I actually start, it'll be easier for me to continue in the tomorrow or the next day, whatever it is. It'll be a lot easier for me as opposed to just the first time starting is a lot harder to get back into it. But once you get into it, then it's okay, I can kind of get some momentum here. Kind of when you start going to the gym or just start up anything. It's at first I don't want to say daunting, because it's not it's daunting to write, but it's just all right, I don't really want to. It seems like a chore more than anything. It's all right, this is kind of a chore. I do not want to do this at all. And then it's you do it once and you're okay, and then you do it twice and you're all right, this isn't bad. And then it just becomes a part of your daily routine and something that you do. That's my goal, at least. For all I mean, I've in the past been writing for a day or two, and then I won't write for a month or two. It's really bad. And I talked about that a little bit in the episode with Eric, but yeah, it's really bad. But I'm trying to get better at it. And plus, now that I have this free time, I'm trying to fill it with productive things, which I have been actually very productive in the past 2 weeks. But I'm trying to just be more productive and just fill the time doing things that I should have been doing 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Catching up on my creative endeavors, I guess you could say. I don't know if endeavors would be the right word there, but it's the word we're using, so that's cool. I don't have too much to talk about today. This is going to be a shorter episode just because of the way things have been going. There's not a lot to update you on, and I actually thought I had a lot more written down for this episode than I did, but it turns out everything that I had written down was for episode 13, which is next week, and I didn't realize that until I went to go film this, and I looked at my notes, and I was oh crap, there's literally nothing on there. So I figured some stuff out, and obviously I'll think of things along the way. I typically always do, but just wanted to forewarn you there. I don't want to overhype next week's episode, because I hate when people overhype something, then you watch it or you taste it or whatever it is, and you're all right, this was not I thought it was going to be insane, and this was okay. But I do think it's going to be a really good episode. As long as the audio, as long as I have the audio fixed, which I'm 90% sure I have it fixed. I'm pretty sure I figured out what the issue was on that. And so if that's the case, I should be able to have it back to how it was when I filmed my first episode with Eric. Because when Eric and I filmed that first episode, there were no audio issues. But since then, there's been issues here and there. Mainly the last episode, there was a lot of issues, and there's been echoing issues in a few episodes. But I think I figured it out is because there's I mean, you guys don't really care too much, but there's a switch on the back of my microphone that I didn't know existed, and I think when I filmed episode 3 and it was my mic was in a backpack, that switch got turned on, and it made it so it would echo a little bit. So when I have my guest on next week, we're gonna test it out for we're gonna just hang out and talk at this table for 15-20 minutes beforehand. I'm gonna record it, but it's not gonna be part of the podcast. Just so I can test and see how the mic does for 15-20 minutes. And see if there's any echoing, and if not, then we'll go with it. If it is echoing, then I have backup plans and everything, so don't stress, don't worry. But I'm really excited about the episode. I'm gonna get to see one of my childhood best friends, and we're gonna get to talk and get together and just catch up first of all. But second of all, I get to talk to him about this podcast, and him and I always have 1.5 million things to talk about because him and I have 1 million stories that we could share, and I'm super excited. I already have a few written down, and I'm sure him and I will think of more along the way, so I'm excited. I don't want to talk about it too much because this is a different episode. That's next week, so I don't want to give it too much of a precursor because, again, I don't want people to be like, this is going to be such a great episode, and then they watch it, and they're like, this sucks. So we'll just move on from that, but I'm excited about it. That's all I'm going to say is I'm really excited, and it's probably going to be a longer episode, which is good because I think this episode will be shorter, so I think it'll, balance out. But anyways, like I said, I don't have a ton to talk about today, but I did want to talk about, I started a TV show recently, a TV show that I had never seen before, and it's kind of insane that I hadn't seen it before, but I'll explain why I haven't, or I hadn't up until last week. I started watching Stranger Things, for the first time, season 1. I'm almost done with season 1. I think I have 1 or 2 episodes left. Or my fiance's rewatching it with me. She's caught up. Well, she hasn't finished season 4 yet. She's watched 1 or 2 episodes. But she made me watch it. She's like, hey, you just need to start watching this show because I know you're going to really like it. So she made me start watching it, and I've loved it. She was 1,000% right. It's an amazing show so far. And so I'm really excited to keep watching it and to binge it and then catch up to it. Because by the time I get to season 4, season 5 will be out. Because season 5 is going to be out in 10 days or whatever, 11 days from filming this. So that's awesome. I'm super excited about it. So I just want to say that show is awesome. I know some of you guys are like, how have you never seen Stranger Things? That's literally one of, if not the biggest TV show on the planet. It's definitely a top 5 biggest TV shows. I mean, every time there's a season that comes out or anything about it, it's everywhere. Understandably so, by the way. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. And my reasoning, I don't want to say I used to because I feel like I kind of still do have this rule, but I'm not as strict on it. I'm more lenient on it now. But I had this rule, or have, I don't know, whatever you want to say. I have this rule where I don't want to watch a show unless it's bingeable. So I don't want to watch a show that has 1 season on Netflix and then I have to wait a year plus to get the second season on Netflix. Does that make sense? Because then I'm going to watch those 10 to 12 episodes. Then I'm going to not be able to watch that show for over a year, and that's going to bug me. But if I wait until there's 3 seasons of the show, that gives me at least, 16 to 20 episodes, depending on how long the seasons are, if not more, of content that I can watch. And hopefully, by the time I get to I'm finished with season 3, season 4 comes out. But if not, I at least had 3 seasons worth of content that I could consume, as opposed to having to watch season 1, wait, watch season 2, wait. So does that make sense? It sounds really dumb when I say it out loud, but it's just, that's been a rule of mine. But I think I'm less strict on it now because I don't watch nearly as much TV as I used to. I don't have as much time to do it. When I was, younger, I could watch TV shows. I could watch, I don't want to say it like this, but I could watch a season in a week, right? But nowadays I just don't have nearly as much time to be binging a TV show like that. I mean, I have time to watch TV, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm watching Stranger Things, and there's other shows that my fiance and I watch, but it's not like I'm able to just go that crazy with my my binging, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was my reasoning on it. And I mean, I haven't seen a lot of good shows, actually. For somebody who's very, I pride myself on my movie and TV knowledge because I went to school for that for a long time, and that it's always been something that fascinates me. there's a lot of really good movies and TV shows that I have not seen, and it's just so funny to me because I'm pretty stingy on like what I'll watch because it's like I'm very critical of a lot of like movies and TV, because I think in my head I think that how do I word this? I think I know more than I actually know. Like when I'm like critiquing a movie or TV show, I think I know more than I actually do. That's what I was trying to say. I'm like I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like one of those movie critics that's like, oh, it didn't have enough of this or that. I'm not really like that. I think movie critics, by the way, awful. I'll get into that actually. That's a great tangent, but not right now. But like I am very critical. I'll be like, and I do feel like I feel like in my head I think I view movies differently than like a normal. I don't want to say normal person, but like somebody else would. And that's just not true, really. I may look at it from different perspectives, but I don't view a movie differently than, say, you would just because I took some film classes at a community college 5 years ago. I think that there was a point in time I really, really thought that. I don't really think it as much anymore. And I'm still critical, don't get me wrong. Like, there are things, as a writer of some sorts, there are things that I'm like, hey, even I could write this better. And I'm not the one getting paid, so much money. And I'm not the one on a huge production, you know what I mean? And so that'll frustrate me, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I could have shot this scene better or acted this better, because obviously that's not my like repertoire and not my skill set. I did take a directing class though, and I will say it was a cool class. Like, it's cool to learn about like the lighting and stuff, which is why my lighting's so goated. It's not really that great, but you learned about lighting and like set directors and like a lot of stuff, like how to set up a scene. It was a cool class, but the thing I didn't like about the class is the professor just loved Peter Jackson. Loved Peter Jackson. If you don't know who Peter Jackson is, he's the guy who directed Lord of the Rings. He did one of the King Kongs years and years ago. So that's Peter Jackson, right? And nothing against Peter Jackson. He's a great director, but it's like he was like the only director we learned about. And I was like, hey, man, there's so many styles of directing, and you're only going to show us this one guy? Like, I get it, because what he did is kind of insane, because he was an unknown director, and they let him somehow, I don't remember how, but he somehow got the job to direct the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they filmed all three of those movies back to back to back. It wasn't like they filmed one, released it, went on. I mean, they obviously released them at different times, but they were filmed consecutively. So the studio, I don't remember what studio owns it, but the studio, it's probably Warner Brothers, honestly. But the studio, like, just took a big leap of faith with a pretty much unknown director and, like, not an unknown story, because obviously it was in books and whatnot, but a story that had not been successful in movies prior, and then they just made all three movies at once, which is crazy to me. Like, nowadays, you could get away with that. I mean, they did that with the Fear Street movies on Netflix, which I recommended in Nia's episode. They filmed all three movies at the same time and then released all three at the same time for the Netflix one. So you can do that nowadays, but like back then it was a lot more risky because you didn't have obviously streaming like you do now. Like if something fails, like I don't know how it works, but I think you can actually be more successful if you release it straight to like streaming than you can if it goes to theater. Because I know me, there's tons, and you can probably vouch for this too at home. There are tons of movies that I have watched that I would not have watched otherwise if it wasn't for streaming. Like, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to a movie theater and been like, let's go see this movie. But since it was on streaming and it looked kind of interesting, I was like, might as well, because it doesn't cost me anything extra type of thing. So I think streaming really changed that. There's a whole tangent about that, but I was bugged about it because like there's a lot of great directors. There's literally Steven Spielberg. There's Martin Scorsese. There's Quentin Tarantino, I love Quentin Tarantino films. So it's like I would have loved to learn about any of those guys, but I learned basically only about Peter Jackson, and I was just like, this is great. I mean, like it was cool, but it really kind of got me annoyed. I was like, all right, dude, we get it. You love The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and Frodo and all that, but can I learn maybe about other things? Because there's, each director has their own style and unique like way that they want to film things, and some of them have longer shots and they have wide shots or close-up shots. Like, for example, Mike Flanagan, who directed Haunting of Hill House, the TV show. I don't know if he did Bly Manor. He might have, but he did The Haunting of Hill House. In episode 6 of that show, they actually shot so much of that show, or that episode, sorry, on one shot. Like, I would say like 15 minutes of that episode was one shot. And if you watch the show, you can tell because it doesn't cut, right? And I would say in that episode, there was probably like 12 camera cuts, like angle changes. I maybe I'm lying about that. Maybe there was more, but there was not a lot because they wanted it to be like one long shot to kind of draw out the emotion and stuff like that. And so like there was literally one point in time, and the camera's moving during all this, by the way. It's not like it's just a static camera. The camera's moving and it's one shot and it's rotated. It's beautifully done. If you haven't seen Haunting of Hill House, I recommend the show. But if you have seen the show, you can go on YouTube and actually find the behind the scenes of it. It's very interesting. Like, they constructed the set to work so that when they wrote episode 6, they constructed the set based on that 6th episode, because there's cuts in that episode where they go have flashbacks and whatnot, and so they had to do the flashbacks and everything. They had to do it in one shot. So it's really cool. It's really well done. So I recommend at least watching the YouTube video on it, even if you haven't seen the show. But yeah, there's each director has their own like thing that they like to do, and their own thing that they're comfortable with. So it was annoying to only learn about the one guy. I don't know where I was going with that tangent. Anyways, I guess I was talking about how I view movies. How I view movies, I think, is very, very similar to most people. But I think there were times, and maybe there still are times, where I get a little holier than thou, and I'm like, well, what would you know about the movie industry? Even though I don't know much more than any of you guys, you know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, too, to know about the movie industry, you know what you have to do? You just have to watch movies. Like, you don't have to take classes on it. I don't know. It's funny how egotistical the human brain can be sometimes. Okay, but I did say I want to talk about movie critics, which I did not plan on talking about any of this, but I think it's a great thing to talk about. Movie critics suck so bad. Dude, they're so bad. Have you ever read any, like, Rotten Tomatoes, like, critic reviews? Have you ever read any of them? Because it's their reasoning for, like, it's just so dumb. It's like, I swear they just do, like, a Family Feud survey, send it out to, like, 100 people, and they just, like, 100 random people, and then they like, say what they thought about the movie. First of all, how do you get a job as a movie critic? How do you get to say, I can critique movies better than anyone? Like, how does that happen? How is that, like, a job that you can get, first of all? Second of all, what makes your opinion more valid than mine? Just because you watch movies? I could watch the same movie as you and get a whole different perspective on it than you would have on it. And that doesn't mean that you're right or I'm right. It's just how it is. Movies and TV shows can be left for interpretation at times, unless obviously the show tells you in one way or the other. But it just bugs me. Like, there's some movies that you'll go on Rotten Tomatoes and it's like, critics rate it 97%. And you're like, oh, 97 or 98%. That's crazy. And then you look at, like, the people who didn't like the movie, like the critics, and it's like always the dumbest reasoning. It's always so, like, dumb and asinine. It's like you were literally nitpicking and looking for something to critique it on, and because of that, you, like, ruined this movie from getting, like, a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes, which, by the way, I know it's, like, a big deal for the trailers. Like, 90 critics rave about this movie, but who cares? Like, if I made a movie and it had 50% Rotten Tomatoes, but it, like, 90% of the audience loved it, that's a victory for me. You know what I mean? I don't give a crap if the critics like it. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe they impact my ability to get, like, an Oscar or an Emmy or whatever, Golden Globe. I don't know what's for what. I think Emmys are for TV. But, like, I don't care. Like, it's just so dumb to me. Like, why does this random person's opinion matter when I would rather please 5 million people than this group of 50 people that are part of the critics for Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't even know how. Like, by the way, I'm pretty sure it's just like journalists. I'm pretty sure it's just like journalists that critique movies, so they're not anything special. But there was one, and I'm gonna, like, paraphrase and probably exaggerate a little bit because I don't remember it exactly. But when the first Venom came out with Tom Hardy, that movie had, like, really good reviews in it, right? It was really good. It wasn't like 95%, but it was, like, really good critic and audience. Audience, like, loved it. I think audience review was actually in, like, the 90%. I couldn't tell you what it is now, but when it first came out, it was doing really well. And then I went to go see it with my fiance, and it was awesome. The movie was great. I loved the movie. And I remember like reading one of the reviews or whatever, and the review was like, there wasn't enough action in it. And I was like, that's your reason for critiquing it? Like, That's your reasoning. Like, you know how many phenomenal movies there are out there that don't have a lot of action, but they have a great story and great plot, great, you know what I mean? Like, you could have a great movie with that isn't filled with action. Obviously, you need to have like the stereotypical, rise and fall that the movie story has, where you get that climax, and then obviously you get like towards the end and the conclusion. But that climax there doesn't have to be like action packed. It's so. I remember being so annoyed at it. I was like, that's what you're gonna just say about the movie, which had action in it, by the way. It had action in it. Okay, so I don't know what his deal was, or her. I don't remember, but I just remember like being so shocked and just dumbfounded. So my recommendation to you guys, if you're ever looking for a movie to watch, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu, or if you have on demand, whatever it is, or if you're gonna rent one, and you're like looking at the movie reviews, you're like, I don't know, because the reviews aren't good for the critics. I would, for the most part, ignore the critics' review. Unless it's like a 3%, then it's like maybe the critics know something, because that means that like it was awful. But if you see that the critics' review is like 60% or 50%, but the audience's is like 80%, then I think that shows more of how the movie actually is compared to like what the critics want you to think it is. Because obviously the audience review represents a better sample, and it represents the general population, obviously, much more than a group of 100 people. I don't know how many people do the critics review on Rotten Tomatoes, but then, the small group of people that do the critics reviews, and obviously that's more of a biased group as well, because they're looking for stuff to critique. You and I, when we watch a movie, we're just looking to be entertained and hoping it's a great movie. So I would always look at that, which is something my fiance and I do. We'll look at we'll look at both. Obviously, it's hard to, if you see like an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, you're like, oh, this is probably a good movie. But I always look at the audience review, because I'm like, I would rather see what the general population viewed of it than what just this group of so-called experts viewed on it. And by the way, I have seen some movies that are like renowned by critics, and they were not that great. So just saying. And I can't think of any off the top of my head, so I shouldn't have said that. But I for sure have been like sitting there. I'm like, oh, this has great reviews. And I've watched it. I'm like, this was not a good movie. So I don't know. So that's my advice for you guys, because I just think movie critics are so dumb, and they make me so mad. I'm not so mad, but they make me frustrated, because I just don't think that. Like, what are you providing? You're almost. I don't know. I'm not gonna go into it. I'm not gonna talk crap. Okay, I kind of already talked my crap about them anyway. So why make it worse? So that's my rant. That's my rant for the day. Okay, and I sound nasally, and I'm so annoyed about it. Dude, my allergies are so bad right now. It's not even funny. It's not even funny, like, how bad they are. Almost any time I'm outside for even like a minute or two, it's just I'm crying. I look like an emotional wreck. It's just so bad because of the pollen and everything. And I've literally, in my entire life, I'm 24 years old. 24 years of my life, my allergies have never been this bad before. And I don't know if the pollen's extra bad this year, or if it's just like, your body changes every 7 years, and this is just my body changing, and I'm going to have like horrible allergies every, May through September now, which is awesome, by the way, if that's the case. Like my fiance and I had to buy an air purifier, because I couldn't sleep because of the pollen. Because like if we would open the windows and there'd be pollen in here, I wouldn't be able to sleep because I'd be coughing, and oh dude, it's so annoying. And I just want it to stop. I just want to be able to go outside and breathe. I'm tired of having to do nasal spray or allergy pills or anything. Like, let me just live my life. Okay, that's another rant. Sorry. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I can kind of tell that my voice doesn't sound like completely normal. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. And dude, when I gave a speech a few weeks ago, I think I mentioned it. My voice sounded so different. And I was stressed because it sounded worse a few days prior. But like, it sounded scratchy. Like, it sounded like, honestly, I had been like talking loudly, and like my voice was giving out or whatever. But no, that wasn't the case. I just had allergies and I had a scratchy throat. And then I went up for the speech and I was like, hello. And it was just like so deep, and I don't know why. And it wasn't me like trying to like, deepen my voice, because I don't care about that type of thing. But I went up and I was like, hello. I was like, all right, that's not my voice, but that's what the voice is going to be. So that's cool. But luckily nobody remembers that type of stuff anyways. By the way, isn't that like a scam? I mean, think about it. Most people have at least, 1 to 2 graduations in their lifetime, 8th grade and high school. Obviously, some people get a third with college or a bachelor's degree, and some people get more if they get master's and doctorate, so on and so forth. But, like, be honest with yourselves. How much do you remember from your 8th grade and high school graduation if you graduated 8th grade and high school? Like, how much do you actually remember? Like, I'll tell you right now, I barely remember anything. I barely remember anything from either of those. I talked at both of them, but my 8th grade one, I don't even remember like anything I said. And then my senior graduation, I remember like a little bit. But other than that, like I really don't remember. I don't remember what the speaker said. Like I don't remember what I did after. Like if I had like a graduation party, I don't remember. Like, you know what I mean? I don't remember any of that stuff. And that's just like, we work so hard, you know. You work so hard. I mean, first 8 years of schooling, or 7 years of schooling, whatever. 8 years of schooling. You know, you get to your 8th grade diploma, and then you're like, awesome, but then you don't remember that. And then you work really, really hard for your 4 years in high school. You know, go through a lot of probably personal like trials and tribulations. School may not be the hardest, but you're going through a lot of personal stuff. Everybody goes through a lot of personal stuff in high school, and then it's like, all right, don't really get to remember that. Cool. I mean, I graduated only 6 years ago from high school, and I barely remember. And then you go to college. Let's say you graduate college. You work extremely hard, spend a lot of money, a lot of flipping money, a lot of that shmoney, and you barely remember. Like I graduated college a year ago, and I barely remember anything. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. Obviously, I remember some of the things that I learned, but like I barely remember the college graduation. I mean, I didn't really have a legitimate one because of COVID, which was really cool, but that's neither here nor there. That's whatever. Happens, I guess. So that was fun. Thanks, COVID. I'll always complain about that because it's like, you know, first one in my family to graduate college and work my tail off, and for that, yet don't get a legitimate graduation. It's cool. Cool. No doubt. Cool. Anyways, weird tangent, but I was thinking about that, like, you know, because I remember we had the graduation a few weeks ago for the 8th graders, and they were kind of nervous, and I was like, listen, guys, I'm gonna be honest, like, you know, this isn't going to be remembered as, you know what I mean? You think that it's going to be so, like, crazy and all this, but I'm like, it's not as crazy as you think it's going to be, and it's not, like, going to be as core of a memory as you're really thinking it's going to be. It may be for a couple months, maybe even a year, but after that, it kind of all blends together, and it's kind of going to get washed away a little bit. So I was like, just enjoy it, and enjoy the moment, make memories, take pictures, because you're only going to live through this once. So that was my advice to them. I don't know if that's sound advice or what, but you know, they listen to me because I don't know, because I'm older, so they think I'm smart. But I try to tell them all the time, like, listen, just because I'm older doesn't mean I know anything. Like I don't know anything about anything. Okay, it's gonna be a shorter episode, so we're just gonna go into rank up. Okay, we're ranking things today. I need to get like a sound. Like I need to get like a sound from when we do rank up. That would be cool. Or make one, I mean, is what I meant to say. I'm not going to get one. I'm not going to pay somebody to do that for me. Anyways, we're doing rank up again today. And I hinted at this one last week, but the rank up is going to be the male celebrity battle royale. That's what we're doing. So we're going to be doing this based on who we think will win in hand-to-hand combat in a 1v1 fight in the octagon. And that's really it. That's really honestly it. Last week we did the female celebrity battle royale. Aubrey Plaza won that. Shout out to Aubrey Plaza. This week we're going to do the male celebrity one. We can see who can join Aubrey Plaza up on that stage as the victors, as the champions. So without further ado, we're just going to get right into it, okay? The first matchup we have here is Shawn Mendes versus Adam Levine. You know, if we're being honest, like, I don't think either of these guys is winning a fight. I mean, not that they're both not, like, they both seem to be in good, like, physical shape, but I just don't think their fighting skills are going to be, you know, A1, if that makes sense. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that I have A1 fighting skills. Like, I'm not viewing this from a fighter's perspective of being like, oh, I could easily beat both of them up with a roundhouse kick and put them in a full Nelson. Like, nah, I don't know anything like that. But I will say, like, my opinions and like who I pick to win is very objective, and it's a lot of times based on nothing. So don't get offended if somebody's actually secretly a black belt in Taekwondo or whatever, and I didn't know that, and you're just like, oh my gosh, but Shawn Mendes takes this class and he would be. I'm like, all right, my bad, I didn't know that. I don't keep up with like really any of their personal lives. So I'm gonna go Adam Levine for this though. I feel like Adam Levine would be able to fight a little more. Again, I don't think really any of them wins that fight though. I think we're all losers for watching that fight. Justin Bieber versus Harry Styles. This is actually literally the same thing. I don't think this is a fight that anybody really wins, and I don't think this is a fight that any of us win by watching it either. But Justin's got some weird face paralysis thing right now. He's like got some illness, so just because of that, if we're going off current, I got to give it to Harry just because Justin's got an illness right now. Matthew McConaughey versus David Beckham. McConaughey versus David Beckham. David Beckham was a soccer player, so he would be in pretty good physical shape, but he's been retired for years. And Matthew McConaughey, I feel like Matthew McConaughey is a weird dude, and I feel like he's like Southern too, right? So I feel like he just knows some weird stuff, like knows how to fight. Does that make sense? Like I honestly feel like Matthew McConaughey would win in most fights against people because he just seems like he would know. He seems like the type of guy who knows a little bit of everything, but like you don't know that he knows that. So then he just like secretly like can kick your ass or whatever, and you just didn't even know the entire time. So I'm gonna go with McConaughey, just because he just weirds me out. I feel like when you have that mystery and that little like that weird aura, like that if there's anything that I can't fully tell just from like looking at you, then I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, which is what I did with Aubrey Plaza, by the way, and she ended up winning. So McConaughey might be a dark horse here, but we'll have to see the rest of the bracket. Okay, Ryan Gosling versus Justin Timberlake. I'm going Ryan Gosling. I don't have to think about that. Ryan Gosling that man is absolutely yoked. So I'm gonna pick Gosling in a heartbeat. Okay. All right, got a battle of the Chris's here. We got Chris Evans versus Chris Pine. I mean, listen, both physical, very physical specimens. Both Chris's. Both in action hero movies. Chris Pine is in Wonder Woman. Obviously, I almost said Chris Pratt. Chris Evans is Captain America. And because of that, I have to go Chris Evans because he's literally Captain America. So he has to have picked up something from those 85 Marvel things that he was in. All right, we have another battle of the Chris's. And this one's a Marvel battle. We have Chris Hemsworth versus Chris Pratt. I'm going Chris Hemsworth. I mean, I don't have to think about that one. It's literally Thor. They had to add a fat suit to him for the end game because he was just so actually ripped. Okay, like there's no way. It's Hemsworth all the way. Okay, we got Ryan Reynolds versus some guy. I think he's from like one of those like Vampire Diaries type shows. I don't know who he is, and the rule is if I don't know what your name is or who you are, then you automatically lose. And I would have picked Ryan Reynolds anyways because of his experience on Deadpool and whatnot. Bradley Cooper versus somebody else I don't know. So Bradley Cooper automatically wins. Sorry to those guys that I didn't know them. All right, we are now on to the second round of this side of the bracket. We have Adam Levine versus Harry Styles. Again, this is not a fight that either of these guys is winning. This is not. I don't think either of these guys wins this fight. Harry's got the youth on his side. Harry was in the Eternals, right? He was in Dunkirk as well. So maybe he knows how to like fight a little bit. I mean, Adam Levine, Adam Levine's got those weird tattoos that makes him look like a Chipotle bag. So just because of that, I'm gonna go with Harry Styles. Matthew McConaughey versus Ryan Gosling. I'm going McConaughey. I think Gosling might be like physically stronger, but I feel like McConaughey would be very scrappy. Like I said before, he's very mysterious. We don't know a lot about him, and I think that mystery would give him the chance to win. So we'll see. Like I said, he's a sleeper. He's a dark horse pick. He's kind of like that Cinderella team. Chris Evans versus Chris Hemsworth. Aren't these guys like best buds in the Marvel movies, Captain America and Thor? I'm going Thor. Thor is going to be hard to beat. Chris Hemsworth is going to be hard to beat. I mean, it's literally Chris Hemsworth. He's literally Thor. Ryan Reynolds versus Bradley Cooper. I think I'd go Ryan Reynolds here. At the very least, he's got the humor, so he can maybe he like makes Bradley Cooper laugh. He gets a little weakened he gets a little weakened from the laugh. He lets his guard off a little bit, and then Ryan Reynolds comes in for the kill. So I'm gonna go Ryan Reynolds there. Even though Bradley Cooper is funny too, by the way. Bradley Cooper is a funny guy, so I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But plus, he's got the Deadpool experience. Yeah, we'll go with Mr. Reynolds. Harry Styles versus Mcconaughey. I mean, Harry Styles, I don't even think should have made it this far. He just got a lucky side of the bracket. He got a very easy couple matchups, but this one he's losing to Mcconaughey. All right. Chris Hemsworth versus Ryan Reynolds. Listen, I would like to pick Ryan Reynolds as he is one of my favorite actors in Hollywood. But unbiased opinion aside, I think Chris Hemsworth beats him in a fight. Chris Hemsworth is a tall specimen. Also, to be fair, and I didn't think about this until just now, I don't think Ryan Reynolds would want to fight. He seems like the type of dude that would just compliment his opponent so much. Like, he's not like a very arrogant person if you watch him in interviews. Which I'm not saying like any of these other guys are arrogant or anything. But if you watch Ryan Reynolds in interviews, like, he's very like, I don't want to say very humble, but he's like more humble and stuff like that. So like, he would not take credit. And like, I don't think he would personally think he could beat any of these guys in a fight. Because he wouldn't want to fight them anyways. But Matthew McConaughey versus Chris Hemsworth. Listen, McConaughey, you had a phenomenal run. You really did. Really did. You know, you were a 12th seed coming in here, but you're gonna lose to one of the powerhouse schools. You're gonna lose to the powerhouse that is Thor. I'm sorry. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a Final Four. There's nothing wrong with being a Final Four contender. Okay, and I think, you know, Matthew McConaughey, shout out to you. All right, that's good for you, man. But you just went up against literally Thor. So I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. All right, we have Henry Cavill versus Matt Damon. They picked a young picture of Matt Damon for this. But I mean, Henry Cavill, it's Superman. I don't have to think about that. I mean, have you seen Henry Cavill's chest? That dude's like, if I was running, like kind of like I was jogging, and I wasn't like, I turned around and you called my name, and I was like, oh, what? And then I didn't see, but Henry Cavill was standing right there, and I ran into his freaking pecs. It'd be like jogging. It'd be like running full speed into a brick wall, and I was just jogging. Like, that man's like a literal tank. He's gonna be tough to beat too. Honestly, he's gonna be a tough one to beat. We have some guy I don't know. Looks like another one of those guys from like one of those Vampire Diaries type shows, Gossip Girl type shows. He's versus Loki. Tom Hiddleston. There's two. There's a Tom Hiddleston and Tom Hiddlesworth or something like that. I don't know. I always get him confused. I know this is Loki. I can obviously tell. He's also in Crimson Peak, but I always get their last names confused because there's two Tom Hiddles something. Like, there's Hiddleston and Hiddlesworth or whatever. I don't know. I think he's Hiddleston, but somebody's going to be yelling at me in the comments. Michael B. Jordan versus Zayn Malik, the guy from One Direction. Michael B. Jordan all day. Michael B. Jordan, wait a second. That's actually like kind of a dark horse as well. Because listen, Michael B. Jordan, first of all, was in Black Panther, T'Challa. Second of all, that man was in Creed 1 and 2. He can take a punch. There's literally video on the internet of him actually getting punched on set from filming it. So my man can take a punch, probably knows how to punch and knows how to fight, like, or at least how to box, because you have to learn, for the movie to be like actually accurate, you would have to learn the stance, you'd have to learn like how to dodge and like at least the choreography of the dodging and whatnot. And I'm assuming he probably learned how to punch a bit. Like, he probably worked with like some actual like boxing trainers, I would imagine. So Michael B. Jordan, that's he on this list, like, he's probably one of the few, if not the only guy who knows how to actually fight. So or at least like would have an idea of how to actually fight if he had to. I'm not saying he's like would be a pro and be able to go box Mayweather, but The Weeknd versus Drake, definitely The Weeknd. Drake would just have his Ghost Rider fight for him, so he wouldn't even do it himself. That would 100% be The Weeknd. Drake would just be too busy texting Millie Bobby Brown. We have David Dobrik versus Zac Efron. I don't know why David Dobrik is on here. I mean, Zac Efron. No offense to David Dobrik, but I just don't imagine David Dobrik would be winning a fight. So, Tom Holland versus Andrew Garfield. A little Spidey action. This one. Ooh, that's actually tough. See, Tom Holland's shorter. Tom Holland's smaller than Andrew Garfield. But that just because you don't have the height doesn't mean you wouldn't want to fight. You could be scrappier. You also could be stronger. They're both skinny guys. They're both like very slender. And they're both Spider-Man. So it's like, I mean, Tom Holland was also Nathan Drake in Uncharted. I don't actually know. I think this is a 50-50 fight, if we're being honest. Like, I think if like 10 times out of 10, it goes either way. Wait, no. I think like if they fought 10 times, 5 times Tom would win, 5 times Andrew would win. That's what I was trying to say, and I said it in literally the worst grammatical and mathematical way. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go Andrew Garfield. I don't know. Just, you see how mad he got in The Social Network? I'm sure he could just get whatever anger he felt in that scene and just use it in that fight there. We might have a new front runner, ladies and gentlemen. We have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson versus Tom Cruise. I mean, I'm going Dwayne Johnson, okay? I said Michael B. Jordan might be one of the few that knows how to fight on this list. Dwayne Johnson knows how to wrestle. So, well, I mean, we could talk about wrestling, but wrestling's a little, like, that's their community's pretty tight-knit group, so I'm not going to talk too much crap about them. Hugh Jackman, a.k.a. Wolverine, versus Liam Hemsworth. Oh, Thor's IRL brother. Honestly, Hugh Jackman, maybe a few years ago, I would have gone Hugh Jackman because he was playing all those Wolverine and X-Men movies, so he had to be physically in good shape. But he's doing like Les Mis now and stuff like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. Great roles. But like in The Greatest Showman, but I just don't think he's going to be in the shape to beat Liam Hemsworth, Liam Hemsworth is younger as well. I'm going with Liam. That family's just ripped. Also, Liam could just train with his brother if he really needed to. Liam would just train with actually Thor and just get ripped like Thor. So Henry Cavill versus Loki, aka Tom Hiddleston something. I mean, Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill's going to be tough to beat as well. So Michael B. Jordan versus The Weeknd. I mean, Michael B. Jordan, we already talked about him being a dark horse contender, knowing how to fight. Zac Efron versus Andrew Garfield. Oh, I don't know. I mean, Zac Efron's really like into like nature and outdoorsy stuff like that. I mean, he got like seriously injured filming, or seriously like hurt or something filming filming like a nature show for Netflix like years back. He got like seriously sick. So he could, I think he'd be pretty tough. I think Zac Efron would be very tough in the fact that he likes to be outdoors and stuff. Like, he doesn't mind getting dirty. Like, he's not like opposed to like, grinding things out. Because obviously if you're a naturey person, like, you like to, I don't know, what am I trying to say? He probably likes to climb stuff and swim. Like, he's probably like very adventurous. So I feel like, when you're hiking in nature, you can get, first of all, you have to be in good shape to hike and walk around in nature, because obviously that can be tiring. So I think I'm going to give him the edge just for that. I mean, Andrew Garfield, I just feel like Zac Efron would be slightly tougher than Andrew Garfield, but that's not an insult to Andrew Garfield. Like, I don't think Andrew Garfield's a wuss or anything, but I just, when you're spending so much time in the elements, man, I feel like it just hardens you a bit. Dwayne Johnson versus Liam Hemsworth. Dwayne Johnson. Do I need to explain that one? I don't think so. Henry Cavill versus Michael B. Jordan. Oh. Okay, that's... Listen, people are about to be really upset at me, but I'm going Michael B. Jordan. I think Henry Cavill is physically stronger than Michael B. Jordan. But Michael B. Jordan, first of all, is still in great shape. Second of all, he knows how to fight. Henry Cavill played Superman, yes, but he also was in The Witcher. But I just feel like what Michael B. Jordan, I'm cool with that. I think Michael B. Jordan would win that. But I think that's close. But Michael B. Jordan's boxing abilities, I think, would come into play. Plus, him being punched before, I think him being able to like take a punch and know what a punch feels like, I think that would be a huge factor in winning the fight as well. So, I mean, you got to think about how many of these people like actually have been punched before. I'm not saying Henry Cavill's never been punched before, but if you've never been punched before and then you get punched by a super strong guy like Michael B. Jordan, that could really mess you up. It's not like the movies where you get punched 84 times and you just get up and walk away and you're fine. So, anyways, Zac Efron versus Dwayne Johnson, a couple Baywatch co-stars. We're going Dwayne Johnson. That's not even a question. Michael B. Jordan versus Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson, you had a great run, Michael B. Jordan. Great run. An upset in that last round, but you're not going to upset here. Which leads us, ladies and gentlemen, to the championship round of Chris, a.k.a. Thor Hemsworth, versus Dwayne, a.k.a. The Rock Johnson. Listen, I think this would be a good fight. I really do. I think this would be a really great fight. But I still think Dwayne Johnson's dominating this. Dwayne Johnson is probably stronger than Chris Hemsworth, first of all. But even if they're about the same, like, strength-wise, Dwayne Johnson has the wrestling ability, and he also played football. He's been through it a bit more than Chris Hemsworth. So I'm going to go with Dwayne Johnson. So Dwayne Johnson is the winner of the male celebrity battle royale. He's the king, while Aubrey Plaza is the queen. They are the battle royale champions. The victory royales go to them. Listen, I know that that whole rank up concept with the battle royale might be stupid, but it's fun to me because I think honestly a movie like that would be really fun to watch. Like where each of these guys, like famous people, they play like exaggerated versions of themselves, and then they go in, they get all put into a room, and then they have to like quote unquote fight to the death. I think that would be really funny and like could be really well done. Obviously, it'd be really hard to get like 30 A-list celebrities to do one movie together, especially considering some of them would have really small parts, some of them would have bigger parts, and so on and so forth. But that's just a funny concept to me. It's just so funny to like imagine like Ryan Reynolds beefing with Bradley Cooper for whatever reason, like, and they just start fighting each other. Anyways, that's that. We're gonna wrap up there. I would love if you guys have a differing opinion, by the way, on who should have won the female one, who should have won the male one. You can comment down below, and you can give your opinions. It's not a dictatorship. I mean, obviously, I'm the one who chose the bracket in the end, but it's not a dictatorship. I would love to hear your opinion. It's not going to change my opinion, but I would love to hear yours. You can follow us on TikTok at Frivolous Pod. Actually, speaking of TikTok, I posted a TikTok like a few days ago, and it was just a stupid little TikTok where it was this filter, and the filter was like it was half of my face, and it was like showing me what my cartoon twin was, and it was rolling through it as I was recording it. And it landed on the slug from Monsters Inc. The Mike Wazowski, that slug, which is very offensive to say that half my face looks like the slug from Monsters Inc. That's very offensive. And so I got that, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill my, and it cuts off. It cuts off right there because I threw my phone onto my bed like to be funny, right? And I got community guideline strike from TikTok. I was like, dude, this had 3 views, and how are you seeing this? And so I had to appeal it. And I'm like, this is so stupid. I've seen people say and do worse on your freaking app. I almost said website. Well, I guess it's a website. On your app. And they have millions and millions of views and millions of likes. And yet my video that would have been seen by maybe 300 people max can't be up there. I don't even finish the sentence, by the way. I just say I'm going to kill. Like, it cuts off right there. Like, I know I shouldn't be joking about that. It's not funny. But, like, it just made me so mad. And literally the week before, like last episode, I was praising TikTok. So I was a little butthurt. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's okay. It's okay. We're rolling with the punches. That's all that matters. Anyways, yeah, you can follow us on TikTok at Frivolous Pod. I'm going to be uploading there a few times a week. I don't know, honestly, if I'm going to be doing the sneak peek to the episode anymore, like I was doing on Monday or Tuesdays. I haven't done that in a few weeks. But I don't know if I'm going to be like posting like clips from the pod as much. I think I will if there's something really funny happens or if there's a really good conversation that happens. But I don't want to force it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to just do it to do it. I'd rather do it if there was something really funny that happened that I think TikTok would like, or if there's some really good, serious, mental health talk that I think is good for people to hear. I'll put that on there for sure. But I don't want to like force it, because if I force it, then it's like the content gets watered down. I don't want it to be watered down. So that won't be necessarily every week. And honestly, I don't even know if I'll do it Monday or Tuesday. I might just upload that whenever I upload that. But I'll still try to upload a couple times a week where I just maybe some behind the scenes stuff, just me doing dumb stuff with filters or whatever, just stuff from my life. I'm going to try to kind of make it my personal account too, in a way. So like, it'll be like somewhat of my personal stuff, like nothing like weird or anything, but it'll like not be just fully oriented on the pod, but it'll be oriented on me as well. And like my friends and whatnot. So I just wanted to give a forewarning on that. I just like that idea better because I feel like the rewatchability of clips from the podcast is very low, but rewatchability of like funny moments that like I'm filming like with filters or whatever is much higher. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for there. I hope that makes sense. And if you're listening to this, you can follow or subscribe to the YouTube. It's the Frivolous Podcast. If you want to watch the video or watch the podcast as opposed to just listening to it. And there will be at some point, hopefully, there will be behind the scenes and stuff on there as well. I'm trying to do a bunch of things with the pod. Like I'm trying to expand my channel on YouTube as well. I don't know if I'm gonna like just keep it as the pod or if I want to do behind the scenes stuff as well. But maybe I'll do like, I don't want to say like reactions because I feel like reaction stuff is it's very what everybody's doing right now, which is fine. It's fun to watch, but it's only fun to watch if they're I don't know. So we'll see what I do, but I'm definitely like open to doing new things with the channel and doing new things with a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now. Like I don't want it to be stuck on one thing. I kind of want this podcast and like my channels for the podcast to be a variety of things. I don't want it to just be so stagnant and like stuck on one thing, because I feel like the lack of variety would really kill me creatively. It'd really just bug the crap out of me. So Anyways, we're gonna wrap. Yeah, we're done. I'm gonna keep rambling if I don't stop. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. My viewership's gone down, but I appreciate the ones that have stuck around for this because I know it's been a tumultuous ride. So yeah, I'm wishing you guys good mental health. I will see you next Wednesday. We're almost to July, which is crazy, but I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Peace.